Some movies are highbrow, some movies are lowbrow.
Hey there, it's the highbrow low. Oh, fuck me in the dick. Okay, we're not doing that.
I have the old spiel. I can at least start with that. Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, you do it.
All right, cool. Welcome to Highbrow Lowbrow. I'm your host, Josh Kirschenbaum.
I'm Cooper Gagan. I am also a host.
Yeah,
I want it to be known that I am also a host. I'm not a permanent guest on this show.
I was really because I feel like I started out saying like I'm one of your hosts, and that just felt so awkward. It's like when you see a movie trailer that says from a producer of a movie you like. You know?
From the mind of.
Right, which clearly they just like said like gave him $40,000 and said, "Can we use your name?
Yeah, can we use your mind? Can we plumb your mind, M. Night?
Can we claim that this is from your mind? This could have come from your mind, M. Night, right?"
Yeah.
Cooper is a host, and I am a host. We are hosts.
Yeah.
Each week, we pick a topic and talk about two movies that fit that topic, one highbrow, one lowbrow. That's normally what we do. Sometimes we mix things up a bit, and that's what we're doing this week with a debate episode.
So, debate episodes, very special episode. We watch one movie, and we try to figure out together whether it is highbrow or lowbrow.
Exactly. And it's really, I like this one because I think, especially comparing this one to the last one. The last one we did was Moulin Rouge. And this week, what is the movie, Cooper?
The movie is Tombstone. But before we get to Tombstone, I have something I want to ask you about.
Okay,
I have an idea that I think will solve a lot of problems for our podcast.
Okay.
So, we've been talking a lot about the show Billions, right? And how we lose a lot of our great actors to Billions, how it's a big shame. And it's upsetting that this entity has taken all these great actors from us. And then we've also talked about Zendaya, who is a horrible actress and is a plague upon us. What if we combined the evil of Billions and the evil of Zendaya to neutralize each other by getting her cast in Billions so that she is expelled from the film sphere?
Oh my. Okay, let me so for the record, I don't have the same frothing hatred for Zendaya that you do. I will also say that I also came prepared with the Billions thing, and I thought, okay, we're gonna do the plot, and then as soon as we're ready to talk about the movie, drop your Billions take. Didn't think you'd beat me to the punch.
You just
that
got
fast
scooped, motherfucker.
with Billions take. Man. That's because my take was we should talk about what the use of a show like Billions is to the culture. And
yeah, no, it is like a hell that we banish our bad actors to.
And the thing is, okay, I've only heard good things about the show Billions. I want to make this clear because I want to be a drama writer, and the writers of Billions are very good, and it's a show that I've heard is very good, but it's a show that I don't watch. And when you watch a show that doesn't have a huge cultural like impact, and or isn't like up on Twitter and Facebook and stuff, and it has a lot of actors. You like those actors are gone for you for a long time. And so we miss Giamatti, we miss Damian Lewis and all the other people we missed in the other episodes. So
yeah, thoughts and prayers.
We got to bring him back. And
we'll trade. We'll do a trade.
I think that's not a bad idea. Like it should be for actors, like for you, actors you don't like. And I was thinking, or for actors who like this movie Tombstone is full of, who are just leathered, old, like great fucking dudes.
It's like a stud ranch for great American character actors.
Right. Like Michael Biehn is in Tombstone. He's very good in Tombstone. He doesn't seem to be, maybe he's on a TV show that I'm not aware of, but like Billions should really be like a rehabilitation plant for actors who aren't in like a phase of their career, but we still like.
And this works even better for me because it also means that Zendaya will be cursed to just be constantly hanging out in Crafty with Sam Elliott. And Michael Biehn.
What would she have to say?
And the ghost of Powers Booth.
The ghost of Powers Booth must be a real pro at that kind of thing. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, what are you saying, Josh?
I don't know. I was trying to say nice things about Powers Booth.
Yeah,
and
he's
then
great.
I defaulted to it, and then you said the ghost of because I keep forgetting that he died. Yeah. Because Powers Booth is the kind of like great character actor you kind of forget about until you see them in something.
Because legends never die.
Right, exactly. It's Sandlot rules for Powers Booth. Cooper. Tell us about Tombstone. What is Tombstone?
Oh, right. The plot of the film Tombstone.
And
okay.
what is the movie? It's a movie that it's a Western.
It's a 90s Western.
I think it was 95 because it came out the same like within a year of Wyatt Earp, the movie.
Yeah.
It was one of those kind of things where two movies come out.
It was a parallel development situation. Okay, so the plot is the Earp brothers led by Wyatt and two brothers, one of whom is blah 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 Earp, and then the other one's like Jimbo Earp. I forget the other one. There's three Earps and a bunch of wives. There's three Earps, and I'm guessing an equal amount of Earp wives, I think. And they all come into a new town. They're all famous lawmen. They come to the town. They don't want to be lawmen. They decide to start various businesses. However, there's a gang called the Cowboys, basically, and they don't like the Earps because they heard about them being lawmen. Everyone wants to make them lawmen, and things come to a head. Eventually, there's a shootout, and the Earps have to get redeputized, and they go to full-out war with the Cowboys, and it ends in a tragedy.
Yeah, that's what the movie's about.
That's basically what happens in the movie. I mean, there's a little bit more going on, like on the plot level, but not a lot.
Well, that's the thing, and that's where I disagree, because I think where the highbrow lowbrow comes in. Because I think if you describe this movie, it's like, oh yeah, that's a lowbrow movie. It's tight 2 hours ish. A big action movie, a lot of dudes, a lot of like that basic kind of revenge plot. But like when you dig into it, like the surface level description is that easy, but like the second level description of the movie, there's so many little weird subplots going on. There's so many characters doing like character things. There's so much melodrama and like weird commentary on like art.
So here's right out the gate. I will. There are a lot of secondary things going on, but I feel like none of them pay off. They're almost all abandoned midway through, especially. Billy Zane's character disappears and then comes back to die and people act like we're supposed to care about that.
That's like classic Billy Zane, though. That's like Zane classic.
It feels like there's a bunch of stuff on the cutting room floor of this, which is crazy because that would make this movie 17 hours long.
Because I watched the director's cut.
Oh God,
it was 135 minutes.
Was there more Billy Zane?
I do not. I think it was about the same. He shows up with his sister. There's the acting. There's a little bit of them hanging out in the bars and stuff, and then he dies at the end.
Was there more of the wife?
I think there's a lot of the wife. That may have been why for the viewers, this started out as a lowbrow pick. This is going to be Tombstone versus Power of the Dog.
Yeah,
as the highbrow.
Well, I think in our original show notes, it was going to be Tombstone Unforgiven.
Right, and we were pivoting towards Power of the Dog, which fantastic movie, by the way.
Yeah, and Unforgiven, a perfect movie in my opinion.
Right, both really interesting movies that I think we should go back to. But then we watched Tombstone, and I texted you like, I don't know that this movie is lowbrow because it's like an hour of melodrama between Wyatt Earp and this younger actress he's meeting and his wife who is addicted to laudanum. I think laudanum
that
automatically highbrow.
Okay, the laudanum thing reminds me. Yeah, laudanum is highbrow. I guess it's highbrow opium. It is actually. It actually is highbrow opium. It's opium that kind of was made fancy for housewives, but. Yeah, that reminds me of how we'll get into it later, but this movie is exactly Deadwood because even in Deadwood there is a housewife who is addicted to opium like that. It also shares a couple of notable Deadwood actors, mostly Powers Booth. But
it's a big one.
Yeah, watching this movie at the same time as you, I was just thinking I legitimately do not know what the hell this thing is. I don't have a strong take of it being my take. I came in with a strong take of being lowbrow because I think of it as kind of a bro dad classic. Right?
I think culturally it has found itself in a lowbrow area. Like I think however it started out, it replays on TNT constantly. It's a very, like you said, it's a very like bro classic.
Yeah. You called it something? You said it was like bad fan theory or something.
Oh yeah, bad. I think that's what it's called. Basically, yeah, just this thing of fans who are coming to a thing for the wrong reason. Like I think the big two were
like shitty bros who like Tarantino,
or I think it really coalesced around The Sopranos when there were a lot of fans of the show who liked Tony, who not only found him likable but like were on his side, like who saw that show as this poor guy. He's just trying to be a dad, and his wife's on his case, and his son sucks. And
right,
he's right.
Yeah, so
his son does suck, but
people who think that Don Draper is on his face is cool and not in a tragic way. He's just cool, which that's a much more complicated situation.
I think more accurately it's like Batman criticisms, like a mode of criticism of movies and TV that you're like really grappling with the fan reaction to it and like using that kind of against it.
Yeah. So my reasoning was, I guess, tangentially related to that, but not exactly that. It's mostly just that it seems like people who are bros and who are not exactly into film and who like other lowbrow things love this movie for some reason. And what's the deal with that? Why is that? What? Because then you were texting me. You were saying they're saying a bunch of Latin and they're quoting Shakespeare. Why do you think this is lowbrow? I was like, I can't explain it to you, but every person I know who likes lowbrow movies loves this movie.
There is an entire conversation in this movie where they just speak in Latin with no subtitles, and it's like it's insane. And they're not like. The movie's not laughing at those characters.
No, but
it's Doc Holliday who is the breakout of this movie.
Yeah, I mean, and Doc Holliday is a great character, played very well by Val Kilmer. But I'll also say oh my God, this is breaking my brain trying to break this down. But that scene itself, I guess, is highbrow because it's not meeting you halfway. But it's also, maybe it's just that it's poorly written.
But also, I think it has. I think it's highbrow because it's doing that without the subtitles. But it kind of reminds me of just when, like, you ever have a friend in college who like acts deep and knows like 2 quotes from Shakespeare? Yes. Right. It kind of reminded me of that a little bit.
That's what I was just
like
about
that
to
energy.
say. It feels like a kid wearing his dad's suit and trying to talk fancy, just affecting fanciness without actually understanding what that means or having something to say.
Right. It's like in a Michael Bay movie where, you know, like something just explodes, or like the president like shoots a bad guy and he says like, "Heavy lies the head that wears the crown," like not knowing what that's from or what matters about it.
You know what other scene is a perfect example of that is when Wyatt Earp loses his shit and just screams no for 5 minutes while plugging people with a shotgun. It's because these writers and director had seen movies in which people had big turning moments where they finally lose it and they have to get their revenge. And they knew there was dialogue then, but they didn't really process what any of that dialogue was. And they're like, no, it's basically them saying no, right?
I actually have that in my notes. So, you know, all my notes, it's like, you know, what are some subjects I want to talk about, what are some actors I want to talk about, and then I just have no in all caps and bold because that's it's
all
wild.
He says.
And you think it'll be like a speech or like something, and it's just in the middle of a gunfight in the river. The guy doesn't ask him anything. He is not asked a yes or no question. He is running. I don't believe.
No, he's just saying no to the idea of being pinned down.
But at that point, he's pinned down. He gets up. He shoots it out. He's in the river. Walks up to a guy who's shooting at him and keeps missing, and then just yells no, slowly, not in slow motion. The film is running at full speed, I believe.
Yes.
But he yells it slowly.
Yeah,
and then he shoots the guy.
Yeah, no, it's really insanely crazy.
And I want to be clear, kind of about the kind of craziness we're talking about, because there's some movies that are like, I call this the Nick Cage special, that are like really truly batshit crazy. You know,
this movie, I don't know if this is Nick Cage crazy.
No, I think it's crazier in the sense that it's so hard to pin down, and it's doing so many things. And it's just crazy that it's hard to really grasp it all if you're really trying to like get a handle on it. But because
it's all smoke and mirrors, it's just it's kind of the surface level patina of what a fancy movie kind of is. Like the scene of them doing the Latin is exactly it, because it's them saying things fancy, but you literally cannot understand what they're saying. There's literally no content to what they're saying.
Right.
Because there's no subtitles.
Because all you need to know is that Doc Holliday's a fancy man. That Ringo, right? He's talking to Ringo then?
That's
Michael Bain?
Ringo, yeah.
Yeah. When Ringo is a fancy man, Ringo being the like, not the head of the bad guys, but like the head enforcer character. You see that a lot.
Yeah.
And that he's also fancy, and they're like kind of like two sides of the same coin, but like Doc Holliday's a little better.
Yeah.
Like that's, I think, really kind of what the movie excels is not quite there, but like what's so interesting about the movie is it can kind of work on those two levels.
Yeah, well, another example I thought of it working on, I don't know if it's working on those two levels, but it is operating on those two levels simultaneously, is the theater scene.
Oh yeah, so
where you're
interesting.
Seeing it's Dr. Faust, it's Shakespeare, it's juggling, that's fun, but also during all this kind of highfalutin capital T theater, they're mystery science theater. It's cowboy mystery science theater.
Right.
One guy says Frederick fucking Chopin. This movie just always undercuts any serious moment with a bunch of little jokes, but not even jokes, but just kind of the little cowboys, the gang, the cowboys, just saying, this is stupid. It's stupid that you guys are fancy. And so it has it both ways. Sorry.
No, you're right. I think that so like, I think there's two things that scene's doing kind of. One, I mean, there is a very highbrow, like method, like mode of a piece of art talking about art. I mean, the big one obviously is Hamlet putting on a play to show his uncle, make his uncle so sad about the fact that he killed his brother, right? And then so you have the play about the plot of Hamlet within Hamlet while the characters are commenting on it. Mm-hmm. That's like the gold standard of that.
Right.
And this is like not that.
No, because
this is not Hamlet, and that's not an insult to Tombstone because nothing is Hamlet.
Because the characters to Tombstone are not actually engaging with the art in any way. They're just talking about how it's stupid and they're bored.
But I think that's really interesting, I will say. I think the fact that you have actors that the movie, I'm not going to say grinds to a halt because I did enjoy the scene, but the movie stops the plot so that two people a bunch of characters who you haven't seen before, and only one of them actually matters, the actress.
Yeah. And we can get into, she doesn't really matter long term, but yeah.
They go on stage, they perform like Dr. Faust, they do all these different stuff. And then the whole time it's just the characters of the movie like kind of shit talking it. It's like, it almost feels like the movie itself is commenting on the movie itself. Like that it is this thing of like, it makes these overtures towards faintiness, but always ends up back in the dirt. So
you're saying that scene is a microcosm of this entire movie, which is it wants to seem like it's a historical epic, but it's actually just a bro movie. It's a dad movie.
That's
why this movie is so successful. That's why this movie is perfect for those kind of people, is that it makes you, it's the same appeal that conspiracy theories have to conspiracy theory people.
I did not expect that turn. Go on.
Which is that the thing about conspiracy theory is that it allows dumb people to feel smart because they know somebody other people don't know. This movie allows people who just want to see somebody screaming no and shooting people with a shotgun feel like they're watching a historical epic.
And I think that's something I want to lean into, if I could pivot a little bit, because the thing I really noted first was that the movie is doing a lot of making a big show of how historically accurate it is, I think. It's doing there's a lot of scene, like the town mayor who has like 40 jobs and like, oh, well, I'm the only guy in town you buy stuff from, like little like, like things like that. The laudanum, obviously.
And
like,
actually, I did very, very cursory Wikipedia diving, and the events of the OK Corral shootout happened pretty much how they happened in real life, and the kind of the ending, like the third act stuff with how the
murder montage.
The Earps kind of swearing each other in and then going after the Cowboys. That all did happen. Mm-hmm. I don't know exactly like that, but in essentially that order.
Yeah, it definitely feels like they are doing work to present themselves as a historically accurate movie. I think obviously they're probably like sensationalizing things. I mean, the entire idea of the Old West, it's kind of disputed now how much that most of it is probably just made up for stories, and that's interesting and good, and stories are good.
Yeah, and it's a constant, whenever I look up these old gunfighters, it's a constant recurring fact that they were never really in as many gunfights as they said. It's usually, I think Doc Holliday maybe killed 2 guys, and they say it was 20. Throughout the history of these gunfighter figures, is that they never really were in that many gunfights. Gunfights weren't as much of a thing, even, or at least like duels.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because why would you duel someone ever?
I do have a little talking point about that.
Please do.
Okay. So the idea of the Old West duel, you're in the main street, you're looking across from each other, and you're kind of hovering your hands over your guns, and you're waiting to see who draws first.
Yeah.
Is the idea behind that the person who draws first is attacking in the legal sense, so the other person is killing in self-defense? Is that the whole reason for all of that?
I don't know. It seems like drawing first would always give you the advantage, right? There's no reason not to draw first.
But in those scenes, the goal is always to draw second.
Is it like a pride thing? Like, I think I'm better than you, so I can draw second and still beat you?
It's possibly, I don't know. My theory, I guess this is kind of a bad faith question, because my theory is just that it makes you legally defending yourself, so it's like you can legally kill them.
Oh, so it's a cost benefit of how much do I think I can win? Like will I live if I go second, even though... No, I don't know. I'll be honest. It's kind of breaking my brain.
No, it's basically like, okay, it's a, Josh, I want to beat you up, as I often do.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get sued by you. So I just yell at you and say mean things to you until you attack me, and then I hit you in self-defense.
I mean...
I think that's the idea of what's happening in these gunfights.
I guess it really doesn't make any sense. I will say, I think... I've seen a lot of Westerns. I haven't seen like a ton of them. I don't think I've ever hit that second tier of just like, a classic like Saturday afternoon odor or whatever. But I've seen like a lot of spaghetti Westerns. I've seen like some of the like Rio Bravo and High Noon, and you don't really get those kind of duels in there.
Well, High Noon is about a duel.
It's about
Was it not about a duel?
No,
I haven't seen High Noon in a while.
High Noon is the same as Rio Bravo, basically. It's he's a sheriff, and the bandits are coming to town.
Right.
And he's going around getting people to help him, and they won't help him.
Right.
It's very good. But no, that's like ends up being a big gunfight around the whole town, and less of a straight duel. The one duel I really can think of is Good, the Bad, and the Ugly,
and in the graveyard at the
which
end,
works because there's 3 of them. That's why they're all waiting to see who's going to shoot.
Yes.
Right. That's why there's an in-universe reason that I can really like get.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's just two guys standing in the street,
But okay, even in Tombstone, because remember in the first time you see the guy shoot the other guy in the street, and he looks to the sheriff and he says, "It was legal. It was a fight.
right?
It was a fair fight. It was legal." So there's the
There's
idea
something
that
there.
there is kind of at least a code of honor, if not a literal code of laws of how these guys can fight each other. So I feel like that's kind of the dual thing happening. But I think ultimately it does make sense. And then over the course of other movies, it gets very abstracted.
Right, because eventually you're doing it because that's the expectation of that kind of movie.
That's
It's
the cool thing.
It's like from 2011 to 2014, where every action movie ended with a spaceship crashing into a city, whether or not there were spaceships in that movie. Remember that?
What is the movie that didn't have spaceships that crashed into a city?
Thor 2?
I haven't seen Thor 2.
There's
Is that the Dark World?
Yes, that's the Dark World.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know. There was that. There was
That's a Marvel thing. Marvel loves having a big thing crash into another thing in the end,
Well,
or a bunch of aliens show up.
they went through. So it started with there would always be just like the villain who would show up. Be like the first round of movies. It was usually just like a 1-1 because their budgets weren't that high.
Mm-hmm.
Then they had the spaceships phase, then the aliens phase, and now they're just I don't know. They're all over the place. There are so many products.
Yeah.
Products. So talking about the code of honor and stuff, because I mean, part of that is we talk about the broiness of the movie, but also I think there's people like this movie who aren't like extremely broy.
Yeah, and also I feel a little bad what I said earlier that made it. I kind of implied that if you're dumb if you like this movie, it is perfectly fine to like this movie.
I actually think this is
I had fun watching it.
Yeah, I think this is a good movie. I was very surprised by it. I was expecting kind of something more straightforward.
Yeah,
I think we talk about TNT, just an example, like these kind of movies are on there all the time. I think Tombstone probably works really well because it's kind of episodic. Like if you get to the end or the halfway to the end, it's there's the revenge, there's the gunfights. You can really track the plot. But before that, it's just kind of a lot of scenes of like men hanging out with men and like talking about honor and loyalty and like kind of like like strutting at each other.
Yeah. The other thing I would say that makes this movie really appealing on a kind of a superficial level is that it's very, very quotable. There's a lot of quotes, especially all the Doc Holliday stuff, and even like the fun little scenes. For example, the tin cup scene with Doc Holliday where he's doing the flippies.
Yeah, it's good. It's fun.
It's just also on its face cool. It's not trying to be anything except for just kind of cool. That scene doesn't really matter on a plot level.
But that's, I think that's what's one of the interesting things about the movie is I think everything is so segmented now in the culture that it's so clear what everything's trying to be. And something like Tombstone doesn't really exist anymore because it's just kind of a movie. It wasn't an Oscar play at the time, I don't believe.
Yeah.
It's not coming from directors who were very acclaimed. Like I'm sure the directors of these movies are very, have had great careers, but it's not like this isn't like a Jonathan Demme movie. This isn't a Tarantino movie, but it's also not like a Schwarzenegger-y, like the action movies in the 90s were very heightened or very political. You have like Air Force One or Passion 57.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you're kind of talking about how we lost this mid-budget movie. It was a thing, well, not really early in television history. Like in the studio system, you wouldn't get a middle-budget movie, but in the 90s especially, it was really a thing.
Right.
And we've kind of lost that now. Maybe the reason why we're having such trouble grappling with this movie is that it's not highbrow or lowbrow, it's middlebrow, and that's just not a thing that exists anymore, so we could not identify it.
So I'm gonna disagree with you, but sort of agree with you. I think it's middlebrow in like where it is in the culture. I think the movie itself is a movie of many brows.
I think this might be quantum brow. I think it is simultaneously highbrow and lowbrow, and it is rapidly oscillating between the two so much that it is impossible to know where it is at any time and state.
But I think there is a subgenre beyond just the mid-budget movie of like.
Also, this is a high budget movie.
Yes.
Maybe I mean middle brow movie.
Yeah, of movies that are like dramas. Like in worlds that can be action packed but aren't necessarily action movies. Usually like male worlds. I guess they're TNT movies, but aren't like. Shooter is a TNT movie, but Shooter is a big dumb action movie, and I mean that in the best sense.
Yeah, I mean it's not. Shooter is almost kind of like a meta commentary on big dumb action movies, where it's so dumb on purpose that is the appeal of it.
So like some of the other movies, I was trying to think of what these other kind of movies that would fit in the Tombstone, like the U-571. I feel like is one I see a lot. The submarine movie, The Perfect Storm. Or like The Finest Hours, which is kind of a more recent version of The Perfect Storm. They're just movies about men that, again, have action in them but aren't.
Master and Commander, is that one of those?
Master and Commander's more highbrow because Peter Weir is the guy.
Yeah. Oh, also, that reminds me, we should say this movie is directed by George P. Cosmatos and Kevin Jarre and written by Kevin Jarre.
Okay, yeah, I didn't really. Yeah, we got to give credit, especially give credit to the writers, because so much of the reason I have this podcast is we're annoyed of other movie podcasts is never ever mentioning the writers of anything.
Yeah, and I will not name one actor in this movie except for Powers Booth, which we already did.
I have a list of actors I'd like to name.
I will
It's a
sing,
good list.
I will
It's a
sing
good
over
list.
it. They get enough credit on posters and in paychecks. We will not support this.
It's my list of dad actors of just like movie actors who are in just a bunch of dad movies.
Kevin Costner.
Again, not in this movie, but could have been in this movie.
No, in movies at all. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of these men could be Kevin Costner, but
Oh,
not.
okay. Just mean yeah.
I mean, I'll go fast because we're not going to talk about them.
I can't believe you're actually just naming a list of actors right now after I made a firm stand against actors. Okay, let's hear it.
Just the sheer TNT, like weathered older male character actor energy of this movie is Kurt Russell, Sam Elliott, Bill Paxton, Michael Biehn, Powers Booth, Billy Zane, John Corbett.
Billy Zane is not part of that group.
I think he's been in a lot of these, and I think like now, like what's he done since Titanic? Do you know?
I mean, was the Phantom after Titanic?
No, the Phantom. Not the Phantom of the Opera, just like
Slam Evil.
I don't
Did
know.
he slam Evil when he had the big purple suit?
See, I was just trying to name names. Now you're talking about actors.
Oh, I'm talking about the Phantom, the movie with Billy Zane in which he plays. It's a superhero movie in which he plays a jungle superhero who has he wears a big purple zentai, basically.
Mm-hmm. I think I was confused because there's also The Shadow.
Yeah,
with a Baldwin.
Alec.
It is Alec?
Alec Baldwin's in that. Yeah.
Okay, it felt like that could have been Alec or Adam.
It was that time period where producers seemed to think that everybody really wanted to see movies based on 30 serials.
It was because Dick Tracy had just come out and Batman had just come out. And Batman leaned a lot on that energy.
Yeah, and then the Phantom and the Shadow were kind of the second tier of that.
Right, because I think there was this weird thing of people were still afraid of doing superhero movies, so they were trying to do like the D sides.
Yeah,
like Darkman was a good movie.
Was Rocketeer part of that?
Rocketeer, I think, sort of gets away from it just because I think Joe Johnston like gives it that kind of actually successfully makes that movie what that is. I don't love Rocketeer, but I think it's the voice of an artist.
Right, but I will say I don't think Rocketeer is specifically based on an actual 30s serial, but it's definitely borrowing the style of it's Art Deco design, and it's set in the 40s or the 30s.
That feels right. I have not seen it in a while. Middle school for me. Stephen Lang, Michael Rooker, Billy Bob Thornton, Thomas Hayden Church, Charlton Heston. Okay, and there's more, but those are just the ones I got down. Like that, this movie has such. I mean, all these guys should have a Billions if they don't already, or are still.
They should just have billions.
They should all be on Billions.
They should be sent to the paradise we've erected for them. That is Billions.
In a weird,
the Elysium in Burbank. That is Billions, but equally a hell for Zendaya.
Oh no. No, I actually do. But also that would kind of work because I think, I don't know, I have, from what I've seen of Billions, I think obviously there's like a lot of very good, very slick actors on it. But like, I kind of feel like I would really love it if someone made a show about Wall Street where the characters were just like old middle-aged men who looked like old middle-aged men, like who were not trying to be like so slick and pretty and like, look how I'm master of the universe.
The
like,
anti-Gordon Gekko.
Essentially,
Wall
yes.
Street.
I think there's something like basically Wolf of Wall Street. Is kind of that, except Leo is so like dynamic that he hides that.
And he is a guy who very specifically wants to be that.
Right, but that's like the brilliance of that movie is you think it's about the Master Universe, but they're just doing penny stocks. Like,
Really?
they're not really.
Yeah.
They're not the guys who broke the economy. They're just assholes who want to be that.
So really, you want a movie that is set in the 5 years before Wall Street comes out.
Yes,
Because Wall Street itself affected the perception of bankers so much.
I guess I just want someone to do Billions with ugly actors.
Are you? Oh, okay. Wait, it has Paul Giamatti in it.
But he's not one of the bank. Isn't he the?
I don't know what Billions is about.
It's about a hedge fund that has billions of dollars.
Are you just pitching Glenn Ross to me right now?
I'm trying to make a real point about how I don't want like Wall Street people glamorized as these like beautiful masters of the universe anymore. They should just be a bunch of schlubby white dudes.
Yeah.
That's all. I don't want to get into the actor talk. I just think it's interesting that all these guys are in there, and it's a good mix of these guys are all over the place in their career. You got like some of these guys, like Stephen Lang, is not way pre-Avatar, so he's very early on. He's the cowardice guy. got Charlton Heston, obviously, towards the end of his career and film life. And then you got guys who are like in their prime. You got, your Paxtons, your Kurt Russells. Or Kurt Russell maybe a little long in the tooth, but he's still Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
That's all. We don't have to get into the actor talk.
No, it's fine. I mean, I will say the one thing that I find kind of interesting is that it shares a couple actors with Deadwood, which is Powers Booth plays a very similar character in Deadwood, although kind of a more interesting dynamic character. And then one of the wives, the Irish one, plays Trixie in Deadwood. And she's a really great character in Deadwood. But Deadwood really is the highbrow version of this movie. If we were to do a highbrow lowbrow comparison, the really crazily close one would be Deadwood, because it is about an ex-lawman coming to a town that has no laws in order to become a businessman and getting sucked into being a lawman again.
Yeah, I will say that is no, not that exactly. That's probably the closest thing, but I think that's a trope that you see in westerns to some degree. I mean, there's the traveling Ronin. I mean, Yojimbo and a few dollars more.
The gunfighter is kind of an inverse of that, because the gunfighter is about an ex-gunfighter who doesn't want to get in duels anymore and he keeps on getting challenged by these young guys who want to take his crown. But so he's basically a reluctant fighter.
Yeah.
But but also this very specific thing of going to a place because it has no laws, and then once you get there, it starts to get more and more laws, and then you have to grapple with becoming a society, which is really what Deadwood's about.
I mean, that's probably, to really blow it out, like, that's kind of why Westerns have survived so much, I think, as a storytelling, even though a lot of, like, historians will tell you, like, the Old West, if it existed at all, was a very brief period, and not a lot of this happened. But it is a landscape on which you can tell more elemental stories because there's less structures, there's less rules, and so the stories become about what do men do when they don't have those structures, or what is the story of putting these laws and rules onto there, like something like The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, or even Rio Bravo. I knew they're all about the law on this, like, lawless place.
Yeah, and it really comes down to what are the fundamental needs of a society, because even when you go to a place because you don't want laws, eventually you discover that you do want some laws because you have something, you don't want it to be stolen.
Right. It's the Cartman's amusement park again.
It's exactly Cartman's amusement.
Have I said that on mic? I cannot remember.
We've talked about it. You should explain Cartman's amusement park.
Cartman's amusement park is an episode of South Park where Cartman gets an amusement park. He just inherits it. And he tells everyone else to get out, and then he tries to just ride all the rides himself, and then eventually he realizes he has to let in like 2 people a day because he has to pay for security to keep people out. And then he's like, now they're riding, the rides are breaking down. I got to pay for 4 people in so I can make sure the rides are still running. And then eventually he's just running a successful amusement park. And that's Tombstone.
Yeah, exactly, because it starts off with, we want to be able to do whatever we want, own whatever we want, and not have to fear the law. And then you get the sense of, it's unfair that this guy killed my brother, stole my land, blah, blah, blah. So you want somebody to protect that. And that somebody eventually just becomes the law. And then you kind of have Cartman's amusement park yourself into having a society again.
You should really, I know you haven't seen it. I know you have a general aversion to Jimmy Stewart, but you should definitely check out The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. With him and John Wayne, another person you dislike.
I thought, it's the 2 actors I possibly dislike watching the most.
It is, I think it's a movie actually because it's all about that theme, and Jimmy Stewart is like is a lawyer. He's like a nebbish lawyer, and he's the voice of we need laws. And John Wayne is like, I'm the tough guy, who like has the guns and stuff around here, and I'm the wild card. And it's very much putting them as like the symbols of the 2 sides of the West, like against each other.
That does sound very good. And I do like Westerns a lot. I will just say my problem with Jimmy Stewart is really a lot of it is just his voice and the way he delivers lines of dialogue. It's not that I think he is specifically a bad actor. But then John Wayne, I do think, is a really bad actor, and he just does the John Wayne thing all the time, and also was a piece of shit in real life, so I kind of don't care about being shitty to him.
No, it's fine. I mean, and also Jimmy Stewart is dead, and it's okay to slander him if you want, but I think also apparently incredible dude in real life, like the exact opposite of John Wayne.
I don't have a problem with Jimmy Stewart.
Jimmy Stewart, great. I mean, obviously an actor I adore who like means a lot to me. It's some of my favorite movies. But then again, I know that you don't love those movies maybe as much.
It's fine.
It's fine. We don't want to have to get
You're dancing around It's a Wonderful Life right now.
I know. It is close between that and Tokyo Godfathers for my favorite Christmas movie, and it's like
I do enjoy Tokyo Godfathers a lot. If you haven't heard Tokyo Godfathers, it is an anime film. Who's the director, Josh?
Satoshi Kon. Unfortunately, passed a few years back.
It's very good. It's about 3 homeless people in Tokyo who are.
They just find a baby.
They find, yeah, right. That's right.
They find a baby.
I was trying to remember what even the plot. Yeah, they find a baby and it's them
They try
trying
and
to
get it
survive.
back.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Very good movie. Another thing just about the highbrow lowbrow, going back to the theater scene a little bit. I have nothing else to say about
I
that.
want to come back. I'm fine to come back to the theater scene. It's very interesting.
The movie opens with a voiceover from Robert Mitchum, another fucking dude.
Okay, the voiceover is super corny
I
and
know.
it is super lowbrow, and
Or is
more
it?
the ending voiceover more than the opening voiceover.
Because I think if I'm going to now put on my hat of this is a highbrow movie.
Okay, I'm curious to see what you say when you have this hat on because I don't really know what your argument is. But go.
If the movie is about anything, and like I think one of the things we talk about is like highbrow movies can be about more abstract things. They can kind of make more interesting, not interesting, but more complex arguments.
Yeah.
So you have something like the theater scene where you have the cowboys commenting on fanciness, and you have this voiceover where Robert Mitchum like kind of telling you the myth of the West. And including clips from movies, a clip from The Great Train Robbery, which is
Right.
one of the most important movies ever made.
Which is interesting
just for the fact that it was a feature. It was a narrative film.
And kind of tacitly acknowledging that the West is a myth that is created by movies.
And then the movie ends with Kurt Russell reuniting with the actress he was in love with, and the voiceover just telling the story about how he grows old and dies happily retired in Hollywood. And that actors are at his funeral. It feels like if this movie is about something fancy, and if this is a fancy movie, it's like subtly like almost undercutting or just telling you that it's false. It's about the falsity of this image of the West.
I do find this very interesting.
I know I'm reaching a lot, but that's why I told you to put that hat on
No,
earlier.
I don't know. I don't know if you're reaching a lot because, I mean, I kind of forgot about the movie clips in the beginning, but yeah, okay. So we're saying the movie clips in the beginning. It's acknowledging that this is a fake story that is created by films, and then the end it kind of brings it back by saying that this cowboy became a Hollywood person, basically, who kind of like went back to what he really was.
Mm-hmm.
He like converted.
That it was all an image almost.
Are there any other moments we can think of in the middle that kind of back up that theory?
I mean, in general, there is the idea of like reputations and images of like, I mean, I think Unforgiven does this better because I think Unforgiven is like explicitly textually about like undercutting the myths of the Old West. And it's something Clint Eastwood in general has been working on on and off his whole career, those ideas.
Yeah, especially because like what I said earlier about how a lot of gunfighters really only got in a couple gunfights, they have a conversation about that in Unforgiven where he describes to the kid about how nothing was really as glamorous as it was and the stories that he's heard in the dime store novels. He was just like, oh, the guy was drunk and I shot him. Right.
And I think if Tombstone is the highbrow movie, and I'm wearing that hat, although like I said, I think it's quantum brow. I think that's where it gets to that. I think that's where you can really make the argument that this is like a kind of a complex drama / hyper-violent action movie about the ideas and myths of the Old West. I could not tell you what argument it is making.
Yeah. Okay. So one other scene that maybe we could read this way is him screaming no and running at them with a gun. It is okay. So it's a thing where it's kind of like in Pulp Fiction where the kid shoots at them and
they're just fine.
It misses, and then they're having the whole debate about whether it's a miracle or not because it's something that happens in movies, not something that happens in real life.
Yeah.
And it kind of gets to the point of they're almost discussing whether they're a movie or not. And that's kind of what happens there because he just says no, and by sheer force of willpower and deciding to be a hero is able to basically turn on God mode, and rock down the river.
Right. Right before he says no, he gets shot pretty much at point blank range, and the guy misses. I mean, It almost feels like there's the reading of Minority Report that a certain section of that movie isn't real.
Which one?
There's a scene where there's a part where he gets captured and they put on the thing on his head that like traps him. And there's a theory that everything else that happens in that movie is him imagining it because it's just things work out too well for him now.
Right.
And it's almost like that happens. Like things turn on. Like once Wyatt Earp makes the decision that he's going to be the lawman again, it's like we're watching a movie in a different register.
So are we thinking that maybe it's the story being told about him, or is it literally that this is what's happening?
I don't know. It almost feels like a meta commentary by the movie. Like I can't believe how many weird references I'm making in this episode, but in the Satanic Verses, there's like a lot of moments where like it's kind of commenting on what it is. what the book is, and the meta thing is not always like constant in that book, but it's willing to do it in moments and kind of like tell you.
I don't really know what the Satanic Verses is about.
It's about a lot.
Okay.
I could not.
Big picture.
Big picture.
In one sentence.
Two men fall out of a plane explodes and a terrorist attack on a plane, and they fall out of the sky, and one slowly becomes an angel and one slowly becomes a devil.
Oh, that sounds very exciting.
Yeah, it's really a shame that there was a fatwa on his head, and that kind of was the story of that book, because I think that book is really tremendous in a lot of ways. Like some of my favorite quotes like ever come from that book. But just more to the point, I think that Tombstone may also be occasionally just switching into this extra meta layer to like make a certain point in a moment, but then it maybe isn't always in that register the whole movie.
Yeah.
If that's acceptable for an art to do, which I had this debate in my post-colonial novel class like 10 years ago.
Well, yeah, this does remind me of kind of, I mean, it was the thing that it was the reason why I enjoyed being an English major in college, which is just like you find your take on it and you look for the moments that meet that take, but you don't necessarily have to believe that that's what the movie's trying to do on every single scene, but you're just like, it's doing it.
Yeah.
I don't care what the movie thinks.
Yeah. And to get out of this mode a little bit, to take my hat off.
Okay, take that hat off.
And I don't know what I want to put the lowbrow hat on because it's stinky and smelly. But the movie also is like an action movie, a romp. It's a hangout movie. I think the action scenes are not like artfully directed. This is not John Woo. This is not like, this is a lot. The gunfights are very much just like show the actors in like a four shot of them just pulling the triggers of stuff, and then show a guy going like falling and doing
even worse than spaghetti westerns, which I think are at least shot in a very cool way and have better music. But this one also, I just have the note, what are these 18 bullet revolvers? It should have a cylinder that is just the size of a soup can, because they're just basically hauling ass at each other constantly.
Right, they're never reloading. It's just nonstop gunfire, moment to moment.
Which is too bad, because the act of having to reload is a really crucial, interesting part of a gunfight.
Right, and it's not, and that's why that's a very lowbrow move in the action scenes. If it's not really interesting in trying to like craft an action scene that's like particularly like police Jackie Chan movies are very lowbrow, but he takes a lot of time in the art of the stunts and the action. This movie is not doing that.
Jackie Chan cares a lot about the mechanics of how things can actually happen.
Right.
And sometimes that thing is, how can I fight 10 guys with a ladder? But he wants it to happen in a natural way.
Right, where this movie is not. Like, once it gets to that, it's just like my note on... I started taking notes on trying to come up with an idea of what the kind of action this is. It's just bang, 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 bang,
It's
bang,
like
bang.
a video game.
It really is. And I think...
and also, it's like he turns on God mode in that video game when he starts screaming no in the river.
And I will say, it is fun. Like, just because it's not highbrow or fancy doesn't mean... I think this movie is a lot of fun. I think... Now that I've seen it, I'm sure next time I have a TV that like can turn to TNT and see it, because I'm assuming it's there every day, I'll just pop in and catch a few scenes. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
But I will say the action is just like big and loud and dumb, and that's a lowbrow thing. It's not always the Satanic Verses.
No, not always. Sometimes it is. Usually it's not. And I'm thinking about, Doc Holliday is the other part that feels like it's trying to be highbrow, but it's
Val Kilmer's character who is dying of tuberculosis.
Yes.
Yeah.
He has a lot of the kind of flowery dialogue.
They're giving him this sort of like, he's the soulful killer. Like, that's the archetype.
Although he does have the line that I love, not to quote a bunch of lines. We'll just do that. I get one per episode,
okay.
Which is the guy saying, "You're probably seeing double." He says, "Luckily, I have two guns," and he just points the gun at him.
Funny.
It's just very funny.
Two guns is pretty cool.
Yeah, there's nothing cooler than having two guns.
No. Doc Holliday, soulful killer. He's I actually think it's a very good performance.
Yeah.
I know we're trying to avoid actor talk.
We don't have to completely
I know.
avoid it.
It's just funny to bring it up constantly.
Yeah.
But Val Kilmer, who is an actor who is, I think, has an interesting legacy.
He's had a lot of ups and downs.
Certainly, I think there's probably been some off-screen stuff with him. I associate him a lot with Tom Sizemore, who also came out of this time. And I know Sizemore obviously had a much more off-camera stuff going on with him. But Val Kilmer, I think, is when he's really like in a good mode, is like a really compelling actor. And I think here he's not everything he's doing really works, but like there's definitely stuff where he's just owning scenes.
He's delivering it very well. Yeah, I think probably my favorite Val Kilmer is Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
He's very good in Kiss
He's
Kiss.
very
Bang
good
Bang.
in that.
He's great in Heat. I mean,
Yeah, Heat is a crazy ass movie. We're gonna figure out a way to do it.
yeah, it's weird. The problem with that Heat is so influential that you could pair it with so much. And
Yeah,
we talked about doing Heat versus Dark Knight, but like which is the highbrow, which is the lowbrow?
I know, because Heat it like kind of it's highbrow in comparison to modern action movies.
But I think
But
Dark
it's
Knight
not
is
really.
I think Dark Knight's doing more openly pretentious things, and I was pretentious in a good way. Not until Dark Knight's perfect, 10 out of 10 best Christopher Nolan movie.
Like Dark Knight does have a discussion about human nature with the whole ferry boats exploding thing.
Right.
It has the trolley problem. It's not really a trolley. It feels like it
It's
is.
a trolley problem basically.
Yeah, it is. The funny thing is, life is a trolley problem. Nothing is not a trolley problem.
Right. Everything is a decision between two things. Everything is a cost benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I take the step, but maybe I'll blow out my knee. I don't know. Everything.
Yeah. But it is a live thought experiment basically that the Joker creates.
Anyway, Kilmer's great, and Doc Holliday, you're right. That stuff is, I mean, that's a drama about a killer who has this like poetry in him, who is dying of tuberculosis, and describing that sounds very, very highbrow.
Yeah.
In practice, it's a little more broy, a little more,
Because
they don't really lean into the agony of his death.
Yeah, because it feels highbrow because he's the smart one.
Mm-hmm.
But there are all these very quippy one-liners that don't actually add a lot to the conversation other than showing how much smarter than he is than everybody.
Right, but like it's not impressive that you're smarter than all these dumb cowboys.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, that's my thing. It's like, it's them quoting Latin at each other. It's like, congratulations, you're the two smartest people in kindergarten.
Them quoting Latin at each other is, I think, the perfect explanation of why this movie wants to be highbrow and is not doing it, because they're literally just saying mouth sounds that mean nothing that are supposed to be fancy.
But the movie wants to have it both ways. Like it definitely wants to be lowbrow sometimes, like with
Yeah.
the no and the gunfights. And I mean,
Is the no supposed to be lowbrow?
okay,
Is it supposed to be dramatic? Because I'm not sure if that was not genuine.
you're right, because I'm thinking of it as more tongue in cheek because of our earlier discussion. But you're right.
I think we have a fun read on it, but I think it might be being genuine.
But the movie does get very rompish at times. Like when the montage of them murdering the rest of the gang is when they're like running on horses and just hunting people down. That's very much like.
Yeah, I have the note slow-mo
fun.
horse handshake, which is fun.
I will say those scenes, the note I have for that is remember in like if you watch Tom and Jerry cartoons, whenever anyone turned on the TV, it'd be the same footage of like cowboys running around the field.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah. But again, yeah, is that supposed to be? It's not supposed to be goofy. I don't think. I think it's supposed to be a genuine moment of him expressing his anguish.
The thing that like almost drives me pull back from that is Kurt Russell. And Kurt Russell, I think, as an actor, is not really known more as a movie star. Not really known as like he's not like Daniel Day-Lewis. He's not like a chameleon, but he's also, I think, brilliant and has given so many great movie star leading man performances.
Okay, so you're saying because it's him, he can never have that moment?
I trust him to understand the scene. I feel like I've never seen Kurt Russell come off as silly by accident.
Okay. Oh, but I guess also
I know,
in the script is that scene Wyatt stands up and then says the dialogue is Wyatt, no, Wyatt, no. Like what does that page look like?
I don't know. I guess I think he's so owning that like heightened weirdness. I don't know. I guess I just really love Kurt Russell. And
he's great. He's very good in this movie.
Yeah, he's great. Is he always super skinny? I feel like he's pretty skinny in this movie. And a weird note, but like I remember seeing, I don't know, I guess I always see him as like a big buff action hero, but maybe because he's always standing next to Sam Elliott, who is quite tall.
Maybe, yeah. How old is he in this?
Oh, like Wyatt Earp? He's a little bit supposed to be on the older side.
Yeah, this is kind of a little middle to later in his career.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly after all the 80s, peak for him was the 80s. So he's getting a little older, so maybe it's like old man thin a little bit, like middle-aged guy thin.
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, he's, this would be like around Escape from LA time.
Yeah.
So I think we're really starting to get to the point in his career where he's not playing Snake Plissken again after that.
Speaking of Kurt Russell having dramatic moments that it's unclear whether it's genuine or silly,
right?
Him screaming, him yelling in the rain.
Yes.
It's after I feel like I do this all the time, but I'm forgetting exactly what the lead up to this scene is. Somebody die. Is the attack where his brother dies, right?
Right. I think so.
And it's raining outside and he's screaming at the sky as if he's screaming at God. and yelling in the rain, which is kind of like feels like a Shawshank scene. It's something you've seen before. It's kind of cliched.
Right. But like when it like lands no one would watch Shawshank Redemption and get to a scene of him in the rain and be like, well, this is kind of goofy. Whereas here it is kind of goofy
because it just
but
happens.
Maybe it is just like the movie failed to deliver a dramatic moment that was not goofy because its movie is insane in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I guess it's also.
But I like the scene though. I don't know, it's fun, but like maybe it's not supposed to be fun.
Him yelling in the rain. I don't think it's supposed to be fun. Again, his brother just died, and he's expressing his anguish over his brother dying. But then I feel like there were. I mean, not to speak for the director, but it seems like, oh, this is the type of. I think the most dramatic thing I've seen in a movie of this sort of scene is a man yelling in the rain. That's very dramatic.
That's true.
Let's figure out how to get him in the rain. Have him run outside, just like throw himself on the ground and scream at the sky, even though that's not exactly what makes sense.
Yeah.
In Shawshank, he's yelling in the rain because he came out of the hole.
Yeah.
And he looks up and he sees the sky, which is a symbol of freedom for him, and he's like crying into the rain.
Right.
And it's raining because I don't know if there's a.
It has to be raining. He used the storm.
Exactly.
It's all motivated. Shawshank's great.
Yeah, so that scene, every moment of that scene makes sense for both the scene and the character, and in the movie. That scene has to happen that way, but it is also the most dramatic way. This one is because something happened inside somewhere else, and he runs out to find the more dramatic place to freak out.
It kind of feels like John Woo to me. Yeah, have you ever seen like a classic
Where
John
a bunch
Woo?
of doves come out for no reason?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's cool.
Right, where John Woo just like puts shit in his movies because he thinks it looks interesting on screen, and he's right. And
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense, and it's overwhelming and like amazing. But like when you're doing something like Tombstone, which is not trying to be a John Woo movie.
Yeah, because John Woo, this is really the hard part, is that it feels like John Woo is doing that on purpose. You forgive him because it feels very deliberate, and it's the message of the movie that this is the way the movie is. And this movie doesn't feel like it's necessarily doing that.
I agree. I think I agree because we're doing the highbrow lowbrow, we're kind of doing the everything's on purpose. The movie's always trying to do that, but there's also the fact that partially, like I think when the movie tries to do melodrama and fails. I mean, movies can fail. Good movies can do things wrong. And
Yeah.
I think you're like. Everything with Kurt Russell and his wife and the actress and all that stuff that's more played as a straight like addiction drama doesn't really play super well for me.
They don't really follow up on the addiction drama very much. Maybe this was cut out. Maybe in the director's cut you saw it was different, but we only check in with her like 3 times.
I think. I mean, 3 times is a lot for like the F plot of the movie. There's so many plots in this movie. There's a lot of little plots.
Having an F plot is tough. but
hey, they chose to take that bite, they might as well chew it.
Yeah, the other weird thing, this isn't even really a criticism of the movie. It's just very weird to me the way that this romance is treated between him and the actress, where they see each other, they go on maybe one half date, but it's treated as if he's cheating on his wife, but he isn't ever. Maybe an emotional affair, or maybe it's implied that they are sleeping together.
I felt that was what was happening. I remember maybe it's a director's cut
this
thing.
Movie, I feel like this movie would show that. If this was a movie from the 50s, I would believe that it is implied that there was an affair. But this is a 90s Western. They can show that.
No, but I would disagree because this is a 90s Western dude movie. So
you don't want that lovey stuff.
You don't want any of that. This is not a movie where you see Kurt Russell going to town. This is a movie where
they do that in like Top Gun. And Top Gun has a weird, gross sex scene.
I think Top Gun is doing also obviously a bro classic, but like a different movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've only watched Top Gun once at a party out of the corner of my eye.
Top Gun might not have been the best example of that, but there are love scenes in bro movies.
But it's usually the exception. And I will say it's probably the stuff that gets cut out when it gets aired on TNT. I mean, that's my thing of like why you wouldn't show that, because like it's a movie that like dads want to show their sons like that, like, well, here's like cool cowboys.
I mean, that's actually a good point. And also, the other point that you made is true. Who has the time? And I wouldn't have wanted that scene.
Yeah, I mean,
it is maybe more interesting because it's a weird emotional affair with maybe they were cheating on each other.
It is a strange dynamic, though, almost a highbrow dynamic, because it reminded me the most of American Hustle, where the whole plot is Christian Bale's character is having an affair with Amy Adams' character, and he's been like captured basically by this like evil wife who is Jennifer Lawrence.
Right.
Like he's saying like, oh, I married her young, I shouldn't have done that. Now she like, we're just married, I can't get out. But she's crazy, and you're like the good woman, and like obviously that's all deeply problematic. Also, the fact that Jennifer Lawrence, the character she's playing in that movie, is apparently in her 40s in real life, which would make a play there. But like that dynamic of, I'm trapped in this weird, complicated thing that is dragging me down, and you are like my salvation of that.
Well, that's the kind of a trend in rom-coms a lot, which is that the usually the lead actress has to have this real dirtbag boyfriend who you have to root for her to break up with him.
Yeah.
You need her to be in a stable relationship, but you also need for that to be a relationship that you want to fail so that your lead guy can come in and be an interloper without you feeling bad about it.
Exactly. I mean, there's so many. I mean, Bradley Cooper in Wedding Crashers is the one that comes to mind the most because it's the most extreme version of that, I think.
Yeah, and it's weird because it kind of casts this weird doubt on the decision making of the lead,
right?
Because you're like, why are they dating this person?
Right.
Why can't they see they are horrible?
Like Rachel McAdams, like I'm sure he's like hiding it and stuff, but like you must know how. Like I understand, like sometimes people stay in relationships that aren't right for them, but when they're that, even for that movie, that like aggressively evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, that all that stuff in Tombstone doesn't play for me as much, but it's interesting that it goes so much that's the core of the movie to them. They end with Wyatt, but although then that could just be about, Wyatt has turned the corner on that part of his life. He's going back to the farm. He's not fighting anymore.
Yeah.
Just speaking of the ending, because it's a little fuzzy to me. Does Doc like die of tuberculosis at the end?
Okay, so he's dying in the hospital of tuberculosis, and he's visiting him and playing cards with him. And I think maybe in the epigraph they say he died.
Oh, and it's right. Doc is sort of like go off and live your life.
Yeah, exactly.
That's nice.
You know what's this is not really related, but the story of Doc getting tuberculosis is even sadder than you realize in the movie because he got it from his dying mother who he was taking care of.
Oh, that's super sad.
I know.
Tuberculosis is super sad. What are tuberculosis rules? This is the second debate episode. Do we only do TB episodes?
I really thought tuberculosis was more contagious than Oh, actually, you know what it might be? I think tuberculosis might be only contagious for a certain window.
Oh, interesting.
And then you kind of just live with it for a while. Because in the Wikipedia page, I'm going to have to fact check this.
You don't have to, but go on, speak. You're not going to get in any trouble, I think, for trying to understand tuberculosis.
Okay. When I was looking at the Wikipedia page, it said that he was treating his mother in the time period where it was contagious.
Oh, so then that's...
and then he got it then and then developed it later.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I cannot think of a third tuberculosis movie for us to do. This is two for two, though, was good for debate episodes. It's just like it's a weird thing to double down on.
It's funny because I feel like every movie set in the 1800s has tuberculosis in some capacity. It just seemed to be a
referenced. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the ending's interesting. I do like the whole Doc says he'll go do the shooting. Do the fight with Ringo. I like how they realize that Ringo, the Michael Biehn character, is the real villain.
Yeah, that felt like that's an interesting thing that happens where you have there's kind of three villains here.
Powers Booth is the head of the gang.
Powers
Ringo
Booth starts off and then he kind of goes away. He gets put in jail, and then that second guy with the big bushy beard steps up, who's kind of like a no name, but he is kind of the interregnum villain while Powers Booth is gone. And then Powers Booth comes back and he kind of falls back down to comic relief.
Right. And then because Michael Biehn is like the sadistic guy.
He's kind of the Darth Vader.
Right. It's that theme of like the real wild card who ends up taking over because they're just too chaotic.
Yeah.
Like Hostage does that really well.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, like every action movie. Like John Wick does that stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It ends, they shoot the bad guy, he dies of tuberculosis. I don't know, is there anything else you want to talk about with Tombstone?
Well, okay, real quick.
Okay.
Have we come to a decision about whether this is highbrow or lowbrow?
That's very important to talk about.
I think maybe we have to make a new distinction of quantum brow, in which this is a constantly oscillating brow that is neither high nor low.
Yeah, I will say, despite my highbrow hat moment, if you had a gun to my head, I had to pick high or low, I'd probably go low. Because when I think about what is this movie trying to do the most, it is clearly enjoys the lowbrow bang, 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 and again, lowbrow doesn't mean bad, but like more just kind of like hanging out. Like it cares more about that they are fronting on each other and shooting each other than what that means for them emotionally usually. Although I do think it's such a tough call.
I mean, my actual take is that I agree with that. I think it is fundamentally lowbrow, which is kind of what I came into it thinking in the beginning, and you did
Yeah.
bring up a lot of points about why there are highbrow elements of it, which I like a lot, and I now appreciate that about it. But I think ultimately some of the highbrow elements are kind of just failures of the lowbrow element. It's them trying to be lowbrow and just failing up in a weird way sometimes.
Yeah, I think the movie, putting on a lot of hats today of, like if you could streamline this in one or the other, I think you could, there's a lot of the lowbrow stuff. There is a more like clean, like straightforward lowbrow action movie in here somewhere.
Yeah.
Although I think obviously what makes this movie fun and rewatchable and such a classic for so many people is that it kind of is doing so much. You can pop in and like, oh yeah, now they're at the theater. Oh, you're popping in, like, oh, that
Yeah.
girl, she's on laudanum.
Yeah, it's very episodic.
And I think I like it a lot, but like Quantum Brow really is the great innovation of the last hour or so.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of us.
Yeah. Okay.
And you know what? I guess a good pick. I was very skeptical.
Thank you.
Because not a movie I personally am familiar with.
I will say I was worried going in because I said, oh yeah, we should do Tombstone for lowbrow. You said, that's not lowbrow. And then I found out you hadn't seen it. And then I was thinking, oh my God, did I just pick the wrong thing? And it turned out that really we just had to figure it out together.
Exactly. We really just kind of stumbled our way into a really interesting episode. I got to say, I woke up this morning, did not thinking about the Satanic Verses and how it related to Tombstone.
Here we are.
Great book, though.
Should we play a game?
We should play a game.
Okay, so every week we play a game. One of us finds a list, and then we try to get the other person to guess the names on the list.
It always like something related to the movies in some way, related to the movies we're talking about in some way. So Cooper, why don't you tell us what have you found for me this evening?
I mean, this one is pretty easy. From IndieWire, the 11 best modern westerns. We'll do the top 5.
Okay.
I have a feeling they'll be a little predictable. I'm not going to have you start off guessing because I think you'll probably just get a bunch
guess
of
at
them.
least 3, but okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see where we go.
Okay, well, actually, just for funsies, what do you think the first one is?
I think number 1 is the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford.
That is not the first one.
Okay.
First hint, it's not that. Okay, so
Not that that's my personal favorite, but like just knowing why, I think it's known as like certainly one of the most modern in style.
yeah, okay. First hint, this one is directed by its lead actor.
Interesting.
It's from 1992.
Oh, that's Unforgiven.
It's Unforgiven.
Yeah, okay,
yes.
easy enough. Sorry, modern. I was thinking modern. It's way more recently. Okay, I'm good. I'm ready.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is generally after the 90s.
Yeah, okay, I think that's right. And yeah, we already talked Unforgiven. Brilliant movie, pretty much perfect. Gonna lead to its best movie, acting or directing. No, well, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. But other than that, great movie.
Yeah.
What else
okay.
you got?
All right. So this next one came out in 2012. It is the work of an auteur. It is very highly stylized. Owes a lot to spaghetti westerns.
Django.
Yeah.
Django Unchained.
Not Django.
Django.
So there is another film called Django, which if anybody at home wants to have some fun, just look up the Django theme song. It's very goofy. It's very fun. The whole movie itself is really insane. It's kind of it's like a real classic spaghetti western where I think a lot of the extras are just speaking in their native language and they're dubbing it over. It's pretty rough, but it's goofy.
Yeah. While Django Unchained also rough and goofy, but for different, more intentional reasons. Great movie.
Yeah. Okay, so this next one I hadn't actually heard of.
Okay.
So I think I'm just going to have to start reading stuff off the Wikipedia page.
Okay, all right.
All right, it's from 2014. Historical drama set in the 1850s. It is starring Meryl Streep.
Okay.
Okay,
go on.
It's about a 31-year-old spinster from New York. It was selected to compete for the Palme d'Or in the main competition in 2014. Got a limited North American release.
Oh God, who's another actor in it?
Hilary Swank.
The Homesman?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Is it? Oh yeah, that movie.
Do you know anything about The Homesman?
I think it is directed by. Is it directed by Tommy Lee Jones?
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I know it, because Tommy Lee Jones has this interesting career where he directs these kind of modern stuff. He also has, like The Three Burials of Mercedes Estrada, I think he directed.
Oh, that's supposed to be pretty good, right?
Right. It's a very interesting, like modern. It's not really a Western, but it takes place on like the U.S.-Mexico border, and he's like carrying this dead body, and he's like a sheriff, I think. I flagged that and Homesman as movies like check out because I feel like when actors direct, they go for very straightforward Oscar bait stuff usually.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of another. Well, George Clooney, does he doesn't really do that though.
Well, Clooney kind of does his own thing, but I'm thinking
Yeah.
like the ones you don't think of. Like I saw Ed Harris has made like direct some movies that are a little closer to
Right,
that, although
yeah.
they're often quite good. A lot of times you don't like remember them as doing that.
Yeah.
Whereas I always thought that Tommy Lee Jones, just like his career, he's kind of doing his own thing. Like has this kind of like shadow career of this director of interesting movies that are not like landing with Oscar and aren't quite fancy enough for like, to be like in the great auteurs, but like are probably really interesting and thorny and worth like grappling. Like there are some critics who really ride for Homesman and Three Burials, which just a blind spot that I've always kind of like don't have time for because I'm 30.
I would like that. It's funny. I remember watching the Siskel and Ebert review for Three Burials or something. It sounded interesting then.
Right, because I think it was his first movie he directed, and so
Yeah.
whenever there's an acclaimed actor who does that, there's always this buzz of, is this going to be an Oscar thing? And I think people saw it and were like, the Oscars are not going to like this. It's
Yeah.
mostly a dead body.
Which is also what they said to Swiss Army Man.
The Oscars are not going to like this. Here's $4 million. Good
Yeah.
luck.
All right.
That movie's great.
All right. Next up. So this one is a remake of a
True Grit?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Great. True Grit's fun. It's a good movie.
Really good. I've not seen the original. I think that's Jeff Bridges. It's one of the great sad Oscar things that Jeff Bridges won an Oscar, and then the year after that, this movie came out, and because this would have been like the Oscar movie for him.
Wait, as opposed to what?
Crazy Heart, which he's very good in.
Right,
It's a really,
okay.
really good performance. It's like True Grit, I think, is like one of those like classic Jeff Bridges performances. He's so good as a Rooster, and like it. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but it's nice when like the actor wins an Oscar for the one that's like the one. You know?
Yeah, because we were talking about this in another episode about how
It was Jim Broadbent.
Yeah, Jim. How sometimes they'll. It's this weird thing. I never know how much of it is just kind of like personifying a group of people and giving them a personality,
Right.
which because they're not a unified body that makes decisions together. It's a lot of people.
I think they're up to
voting.
8,000 now people, and they're split up into their category. Like there's the actors branch who people don't realize the actors nominate the actors, but everyone votes on the winners. But like not the directors.
Yeah, people
and so
nominate
on.
their own. People deal with their own categories until
Right.
it gets to the.
Yeah, so like it's
Bigger
this weird thing where you're right. You can't really like know what their vibe is.
It's
but
not like it's a board of a company that is making decisions in unison, but
Right.
it does also feel that way sometimes.
right. It's easy to personify them. They're like the million bees or whatever from the Rick and Morty episode. Like they're all just buzzing together.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really love True Grit. I love the Coen Brothers. I'd love to talk about them on the show.
Yeah. All right.
So one more, right?
Yep. This one got 2 Academy Award nominations: cinematography and supporting actor.
Oh, this one is Assassination of Jesse James with the Coward Robert Ford.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I thought I'd see it at the top just because I think I see that movie on a lot of best of the decade lists because I think it really has its defenders.
Yeah. I remember it being very good. It's very slow. It's hard to watch, but not hard to watch in a bad way. It's just not really holding your hand at all.
Right. It is like an art movie, like
Yeah.
capital ART art movie. Maybe some of the best cinematography I've like ever seen in my life. And yeah, Casey Affleck's very good. Brad Pitt's it's a movie that I don't think top to bottom every scene works for me, but I think it's really doing some interesting things. All the Andrew Dominic movies are like that for me. Like he's so talented, but he's always like trying weird stuff. And like, that's why he's great.
Yeah, I love that.
Apparently he has a Marilyn Monroe movie that, that's filmed with like Anna de Armas as Marilyn Monroe. And
I've seen production stills from that.
yeah, the rumor is, and again, literally just saw it on Twitter, so don't take the train of salt. But he basically it came in super weird, and whichever company like paid him to do it are like, why is this movie so weird? We just wanted a movie about Marilyn Monroe, which is hilarious. Like if you've seen any movie by Andrew Dominic like that, like Jesse James killing him softly, like even like the Nick Cave like concert doc he did is like super freaking weird.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that is often a thing that studios will do by accident, which is they'll see a director get buzzy and they'll hire that person because they think, oh, we need this new voice, and then they see the dailies and they think, oh my god, what is this voice? Why is it so weird? And that's what you hire them for,
right? They're all just hyped up on the talent, and then they're just like, wait, we hired this baker to make a sandwich for us, and he's made us a cake. What do we do?
Yeah. Let's see. You got any recs?
Yeah. So first, I'm going to recommend a video game.
Oh.
I just finished Psychonauts 2. I've spoken a lot about the game Psychonauts. That's one of my all-time favorites. The original. Second one came out this past year. Very not quite as good as the original. Psychonaut, it's like a platformer where you're a kid who runs away from the circus to join psychic camp because he's a psychic, like psychic powers. When they train the Psychonauts, who are like, the police, they go around and do psychic stuff and go into people's minds and things. It's all very 90s Nickelodeon vibes, like very tongue-in-cheek. It's the guys who used to do those like point-and-click adventures. Really, really cool stuff. The whole idea is you go into someone's brain and the kind of person they are and the kind of stuff they're working through is like the level you work through. So it uses level design to like tell stories and also just fun, goofy, and silly.
This kind of reminds me of Inception, the idea of physicalizing mental stuff going on in somebody's mind.
But like Psychonauts is doing it in a way that, very, very, like there's a character who's like very repressed, so his mind is just a cube. And then, he's fighting his repression, so like sometimes the side of the cube will just burst out and like stuff, like monsters that are themed as like the stuff he's repressing will like appear and you have to go and like tamp it down again.
That's very fun.
Yeah, I
love that.
All right. What about you?
All right. For me, I'm going to say, so This American Life is a radio show and now available on podcast platform that I have loved for many, many years. But I'll say this one specific episode, the Testosterone episode,
interesting, is
one of the best episodes of audio entertainment I've ever heard.
Wow.
Yeah, it's 3 stories about testosterone. First is a person who, because of a medical condition, stops producing any testosterone. And he talks about what his life was like then. And then the second segment is a woman who wanted to transition to become a man, but could not get testosterone replacement legally, so was taking illegally
bootleg testosterone,
got bootleg testosterone and just got the dosage wrong, had 5 times the amount of the average man, and what that was like. And then the third segment is just the entire staff of the show gets all their testosterone levels checked, and it is the funniest thing in the world. So yeah, I'd check it out. It's really good. It has a lot of like really heartfelt, serious stories, some very interesting stuff, and then just this really goofy, interesting power dynamic amongst all of the staff of the show. And it's kind of a dangerous move they made that could have ruined a lot of their interpersonal relationships, and they just went balls to the wall because they're This American Life and they care about making good entertainment.
That sounds awesome. I've heard of the woman who took the dosage wrong testosterone before, but that sounds really, really interesting and super fun.
Yeah.
Also, I like that. I think we both pivoted. I think we've never recommended a podcast or a video game before.
Yeah.
We'll run out of objects of art.
Out of genres. Yeah. I'm going to recommend a painting next time.
I'm going to recommend a mural in downtown LA.
That's not a bad idea. We can do that.
I know.
Or like experiences.
We're trying to be silly, but this actually might be an interesting.
I need to write some of this down.
Just vibes. I recommend vibes.
Yeah. And if you do like vibes, please rate, review, and subscribe.
Yeah. Keep us. We're enjoying this. We're live now.
We are actually live. This is the first episode we've recorded since we have gone live. It's been exciting. It's nice to have our friends support us.
Yeah. So if you like the pod, go on your Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating, write something if you could. And yeah, keep subscribing because I think that's all good analytics for us. And it's just nice for us to know we're talking to someone other than each other.
Yeah, it's nice to just make things, but it's even nicer to make things that other people are listening to.
Right. The thing is its own reward, but also validation is nice.
Yeah.
And also its own reward.
But also validation is a much better reward. All right. Bye forever.
Goodbye forever.